Hey everybody, Sam here from the Golden Slipper Alumni. I wanted to start this episode a little bit differently this time because some really sad news is if you don't know already, which I'm pretty sure everyone does because Golden Slipper news spreads like wildfire. Uncle Scott Davis passed away earlier in the week. That's him right there behind me. For those of you that didn't know him, Scott was a village leader and a counselor. He ran archery. He was the guy who did the arrow find for Olympics, where he'd write out some crazy stuff, and everyone would chant, "He talks crazy," and then somehow you had to decipher that code and find the arrow to get points. And but I mean, he was so much to so many people. He was a mentor, a friend, a colleague, um, uh, everything. Family. He was our family, and he is going to be missed desperately. But he was a fighter. He fought cancer for quite some time, and I'm really glad that he is no longer having to suffer in that way. But man, I miss him, and it's hard to do. I'm sorry. I'm asking anybody that has any stories of Uncle Scott to please send them to Golden Slipper Camp Alumni at gmail.com. Any stories that you have, please send them over. We're going to do a special episode of the alumni experience coming up when we can all talk and not get so choked up. But we will. Everyone's gonna cry. It's gonna be ugly. It's gonna be nasty. Ugly crying, but it is what it is. And I'll link the email in the description. If anyone wants to make a donation in Scott's memory, he asked that you please donate to St. Jude's, and I will put that in the description as well. I hope that for those of you that know him or that knew him, you are not alone. Reach out to your camp family, and we're all going through the same thing right now. For those of you that didn't know him, please watch the episode about him, because you will hear some awesome stories, and you should know who he was. He left a very large impact on the people that were at camp, and then from the late '90s to the early 2000s, and then onward for the people that stayed. Um, it's very sad when we lose somebody from our group, because it's a very tight knit community, but we're all there for each other when we go through something bad, and we're all there for each other when we go through something happy. And I am certainly going to miss the messages from him when something goes on in my life, and vice versa. So take care of each other and be there for each other. And if anyone needs, reach out. I hope you enjoy this episode of the alumni experience. This one was recorded a few weeks back, and it is starring our good friend from across the pond. So take care, and yeah, stay slipper strong. Jotty Lloyd, welcome. How you been, brother?
Very well, thank you. How have you been? I've just
I'm
been
good.
watching Netflix and doing nothing for 4 months.
That's even better. It's even better. I have been working harder than I've ever worked. So so that's cool. I have to say I'm appreciating your hat. I think that was a solid choice right there.
Yeah, I got to show everyone this side of the Atlantic who the best NFL team is. So.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that it didn't catch on everywhere else. It's like it's more sophisticated or something. I don't know. No, it's that's awesome though. It's awesome. So we made an Eagles fan out of you. You can't beat that, you know.
So tell me the multiple people that are probably going to watch this want to know, how did you get introduced to Golden Slipper Camp? Tell us a little bit about, how you kind of got rolling with it and what bunks you were in, things like that.
Yeah, so my first summer was 2015. I was 18 years old, little baby face. And basically, I just finished my freshman year of college, and I decided that I wanted to travel in the summer. And one of my friends was like, "Hey, you should go work at a summer camp in the States." So I applied online, and then it was February time. I got a train to London, and there was this big recruitment fair, and everyone was like, "Oh, go work in the States, get hired to work at summer camp." And I walked in, and it was like speed dating for camp counselors. It was really weird. So there's all these camp directors and camp people there trying to hire you. And I walked in and bumped into a guy by the name of Adam Krameroff. And he was literally the first person I saw. He was the first person I saw, and he's like, "Hey, what are your skills?" And I was like, "Well, I do some rock climbing." He's like, "Do you want to work on a high ropes course?" I said yes, and then that was that.
Perfect.
It was that simple. I got a 4-hour train to London, and then within 5 minutes, I was hired at this place. And then only after I got hired did I Google where it was, what it was, and where I was going. I was so excited. I just called my parents. I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to America." And they're like, "Where?" And I was like, "I have no idea."
That's awesome. That's awesome. Krameroff's a hard sell. He's it's really he's tough with it. He makes it really difficult for you to want to come over. "Hey, you want to do something crazy?" "Yeah, sure. All right, let's go." That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I wasn't even expected to be hired. I just sort of went on a whim, and then 5 minutes later, and now 6 years later,
Yeah.
I'm glad he did hire me.
Yeah, that's so cool. Now, would you have gone back this summer?
Yeah, I was hired for this summer. I was planning on going back.
Yeah,
this would have been my 6th and final summer, I think.
Yeah, man, it's so crazy how this happened. You got to squeeze one more out. You can't end on this one. We're gonna have to rope you back in, a little bit.
We'll see. All my friends, they're like, "You'll go back." But most Brits, 1 year, maybe 2 years if you can, and then every so often you get a weirdo like me who just keeps coming back. Can't get rid of me.
Yeah, it gets under your skin, and that's the whole point of this. We have almost 600 people in the alumni group on Facebook, and it's that's how it kind of came to be. Is that there's so many stories of 70 years of camp plus, and we should be documenting that kind of stuff. And and I thought it would be great to start off these interviews because you're my first 3 people I'm talking to, and the reason for that is I wanted to get the perspective of someone from overseas that's more recently than when I was a counselor, because I stopped as a counselor in 05. So this was so now it's a whole different ball game. There's so many different things going on at camp and in the world, and you still come back, and obviously it must be for the Eagles. That's it.
That's one of the reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. Forget that football stuff over there. That's that's not as fun. But so what bunks were you in? When you first started, what was your bunks in Village, and what other jobs have you done at camp besides just being a counselor? Obviously high ropes is up there.
Yeah, so every summer was very different for me. So I had loads of different jobs at camp. I started in so 2015 I was on high ropes, and I was in bunk 14 first encampment, and then bunk 15 second encampment.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2016 I came back, stayed on high ropes course, but I was moved to waiters. So I was a waiters counselor, which was an awesome experience. And then 2017 I stayed in waiters, but I moved from high ropes to the pool. I did my lifeguard training during the off season. The high ropes course was getting a bit sweaty and fog ridden, so I thought the pool would be a nice place to hang out. So during that off season, I just went swimming twice a week, got my lifeguard cert, and then was at the pool in 2017. 2018, I then became high ropes coordinator, but then switched to pool coordinator. And then 2019, I was the first ever outdoor education coordinator. So I've pretty much done a lot of jobs.
Yeah. Well, hey, versatility. That's it, man. That's how you stay hired, and and B, it keeps it interesting. You know, if you're stuck in one spot for too long, then it becomes like a normal job, and that's not fun. You know,
Yeah,
that's what I
for
liked
sure.
about campus, being all over.
I felt like each summer I had a completely different job. Like I had
Yeah,
like a different job or a different bond or a different somewhere to live, different, like it was crazy, but I really enjoyed it. And then this year I would have been evening activities coordinator, so I would have been
uh-huh.
on like a 7th different job in 6 years.
That's insane though. I'll be honest with you, because like that kind of job, when I was a camper and then a counselor, it was one person that, like, the whole time I was there, and then for years before like that, it was one dude that had that job. And it was like the same with the pool was one guy the whole time I was there. So like the fact that you did so many jobs in such a short period of time is kind of incredible. I find that amazing that A, they trusted you enough to take on all of this responsibility, and then B, that you did it all at such a high level. I mean, I think that's awesome. But otherwise,
Yeah, no, it's pretty
wouldn't
cool.
have.
Whenever anyone was off, it's like, oh, it's all right, Jotty can cover.
Yep.
Like last summer, there was a few people who had to leave for interviews, and it was like, oh, it's fine. Jeremy can take a day off. Jotty can run the higher ups course, or the lake coordinator can take a day off because Jotty can run it, or the pool coordinator, whatever it was. I was always like there. But yeah, it was cool to be like trained in everything, just know
Yeah.
everything.
We're gonna have to get your own golf cart. just just so you can zip around and cover all these other jobs, Now,
That sounds great to me.
yeah, right. When you got here though, so how much of a culture shock was it for you to come from England, and then all of a sudden, you're in Pennsylvania, in the middle of nothing. Like, what kind of culture shock was that?
That it was huge. Like everyone's like, oh, you watch the movies, you watch the TV, you think you know what the US is like, and it's like, yeah, we all speak the same language, we all eat the same food, but it's just wild. And I think going from like quite a reserved British, everyone's like not very outgoing kind of thing. Everyone's really like quiet and introverted, and then you're just thrown into camp. It's not even like you're thrown into the States. You're thrown into camp where everyone's so loud and so. So I loved it. I was from day one of orientation. I was all over it. I was singing, dancing, standing on the tables. But it does take some Brits like a week or two to adjust because it is a huge culture shock.
Yeah,
Me personally, I was just all about it. I loved it. I loved the food. I loved the people. I loved everything. I
yeah.
think that's why I ended up staying so long.
That's awesome though. I mean, that's one of the things with camp. I think, there's a lot of one and done people, like 1 year and that's it, because it is a very different kind of environment. But that, when you walk in and you're like, this is weird, but I like it. Like, then we're like, we got you forever. You're a lifer, come on in. So that's awesome that you took it on first for day one.
Yeah, no, like the first dinner of orientation every year, you just get like all the CITs sat on one table, all the returning counselors sat over here, and then all the jet lagged international kind of like huddle on their own table. And I felt bad. So I just stood up and like sat down with some Americans. And I was like, hey,
Yeah.
what's up? I'm like, oh my God, I love your accent. And that's like how it started.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're gonna live together. Like that's, it's you might as well break that seal early, and just get into it. So that's awesome, man. So like, did the cheering freak you out? Like when like that first meal when the Vogelson train took off, and everybody's like losing their minds. Did that hit you somehow, or was it just like, yeah,
I definitely stood up on chairs and I was just like, I wish I knew the words. Like, I really want to join in. And I just started, like, I think it's just like clapping or something. But my friends will tell you, like I said in orientation week, my first summer, I was like, I'm coming back. I love this place.
yeah,
I originally, like, I planned, like I said, I only wanted to come to visit the States. I didn't know much about camp or like working at camp. And then I was like, oh, well, this summer I'll go to the States. And then next summer I want to go to like Southeast Asia. And then the next summer I want to go somewhere else. And then I ended up saying, no, as long as I can come back, I will come back.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I mean, it's funny. You're not seeing the States when you come to camp. Camp is very much like its own little world. And I wish you had gotten to know camp like pre-internet, like or pre-crazy amount of internet. Where you didn't even know what was happening in the world, what day of the week it was. I remember my CIT summer. One CIT had a cell phone. and you had to stand on top of the playground to be able to use it. So like if you had to call home, you were going to a payphone at the CR. So like I loved that. I didn't want to know what was happening in the world. I didn't want any of the politics and the anything. The only thing I wanted was like some sports, and my mom would like send me newspapers in the mail, and and that was it. Like it was, but so now it was very different. You're more connected and everything. How did that affect what was going on with you at camp? Like to know that there was all this stuff going on like in the world, and I mean, did that change how camp was
Yeah,
for you? Like,
I don't know. Like you said, it's weird. Like orientation week and stuff. You always sit by the office, and there's like a group of like 30 counselors just locked in their phone. And
yeah,
all the old heads like TB and Adam, they just be like, guys, you're at camp, like go play basketball, go sit by
right,
the lake or something, like try. And to be fair, like when the kids arrive, you hardly have any time to look at your phone, charge your phone, do anything with it anyway. So it does feel like that bubble that you're disconnected from the outside world.
yeah,
And even though you can like quickly read the news, it just goes straight over your head anyway. You just forget
yeah,
about it. And then you get to September and you're like, oh, the real world exists.
yeah.
It still goes
That's
straight over your head, even though it's in the palm of your hand. It still
yeah.
doesn't particularly matter when you're at camp.
That's cool. I like that. That it's still not as big of a thing. It's because camp has enough of its own news. You know, everybody's in everybody's business. That's awesome. So now, when did you have a favorite like camp tradition that you've kind of become a part of, or like an even activity or something that's just like that? That's Jotty's thing. Like that's what you like to do, or
Yeah, I don't know if there's any specific things. Like as far as evening activities, definitely my first summer, I was just like 100% on all of them. I loved all of them. I was like a little camper for the first time. I was asking, because I had bunk 14 kids. I
right?
was asking them, I was like, what are we doing tonight? What is this? Like, what do we do? And they're like, oh, it's just this. I'm like, what do you mean it's just this? Like, I'm super excited. And so I was definitely like a little kid my first summer. I think, I just get involved in everything. I think campouts was my thing from the start as well.
Yeah,
So after 5 years, I ended up like doing campouts almost full time last summer. And then like my co-counselor was like, yeah, we kind of just go eat food and then go back to the bunk. I was like, can we stay out? I'm like, yeah, but nobody does. And I'm like, well, I am. Like when I was a counselor, every single time I was out there, I stayed out.
yeah,
Even if I had to like persuade some kids to stay out with me, I was like, no, we're staying. I
yeah.
absolutely love camp out.
Yeah,
I think that's
that was
my
my
thing.
favorite thing too. I'll be honest with you. Like the camp when we were able to do campouts, like other bunks used to ask me and Tommy O'Neill to go like start their fire for them and all that kind of stuff, because like we would stay down there 24/7 if we could have. That was like our favorite thing. But that's awesome. And then taking on nature, that makes sense. You know that was your favorite
Yeah.
thing. You know.
Yeah, for sure. Like I was always down there. Like when we were down there, it wasn't just like we sit around a fire. I was up like telling stories or singing songs. Even though I had like 15-year-old boys, I was
Yeah.
still like making them sing and like dance and do all random stuff down there. But like for me, that was somewhere you could just be with your kids
Yeah.
away from the craziness of camp. And it's like I loved it down there. And my like one year, my co and I, we went to Giant, bought some chicken, and like we were waiters. We saw some stuff in the kitchen, and then we cooked them all like chicken burgers and all sorts down there. We had a really good
That's
time down
awesome.
there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That it's such an underrated experience, I think, because it's like when you think of camp, like that's not your go-to thought. Like you're thinking like Olympics or like, something crazy. But like just that time, I like for me when I was a counselor, I loved just having that time with the kids. That was totally cut off from like these are the kids you lived with, these are the kids that you hung with all the time. But like it was always some kind of outside activity that was interrupting, and you got to just talk and get down to what's going on with them, and what they're feeling. I loved that, like hearing what they were going through and trying to be there for them. But when you didn't have all the other stuff, it made it a lot easier. But
Yeah,
that's awesome.
definitely felt it the next morning, but I think it was worth it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Everybody had. Then you were sick for 4 days because it was all wet and cold, and at least you guys have tents now. We just slept on the ground.
We've got a tent, we've got solar lights, we've got 2 fire pits, we got like cooking equipment. Like, it was good.
It's a whole different ball game, dude. Like before pre-tent days, it was some old sleeping bags that were just on the ground next to the single fire that was there, and nobody really ever slept. It was freezing, and no porta potties. If you needed a bathroom, you walked back to the bunk, like it was, and if not, you were going, in the woods. However, but
Yeah,
so I
no,
mean,
it was like
it's
that for most of my time. That was like that as well.
yeah,
And
right,
then since like Spoon became director, he was like, we could do something here. And
yeah,
so that was my whole job last summer. I was like, how can we make this better? And it was
yeah,
literally just a case of buying like 3 tents and just putting some lights on there. Because I think one summer the CITs cleared out the whole back area because we were going to do a
yeah,
dinner dance there, but then it ended up raining, so we didn't. So we had all the space that we just weren't using. And I literally just dug another fire pit, put up some lights, and I love it.
yeah. Dude, I started writing grants. I was trying to get you guys equipment from Coleman and whoever I could write letters to, trying to get something, and never panned out. But I knew as soon as you and Spoon kind of got together with the nature stuff, I knew that was going to be a whole different experience, because it was always an afterthought, and now I think it's more of a destination. The kids look forward to it. When I'm helping with the luggage and stuff, I hear them talk about that, oh, we got, I heard we got tents, I thought it was cool, that's like a draw now. I love it.
Yeah, no, we posted some pictures on social media last summer, and there were so many comments from old counselors and alumni going, "You've got 10?" As if it was
Yeah,
like the wildest thing they've ever heard.
yeah,
Yeah, we just pitched 3 tents. It's
yeah,
crazy, but for a lot of our campers, especially the kids from the city, they've never slept in a tent. So
yeah.
they were like, "Wow, this is crazy," and they all slept out. Like everyone who went down there this summer almost slept out.
Oh yeah. Well, growing up in the Northeast, where me and Spoon are from, going to camp, that was the first time I saw that much green in one spot ever. When I was like 12, I think it was 11 or 12 when I first started at camp, and it was I was like, so, it's just the woods. I don't, and it was just such a foreign concept, and no air conditioning, and what is going on, but it's so needed, I think, you kind of get that shock, and then getting to sleep out. I love the sleep outs. That's cool, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, when I
We,
grew up, I was in scouts for the longest time. So when I would get
yeah,
to camp, I thought it was luxury. I was like, oh, you have like showers, toilets, air conditioning. I thought it was
it's
luxury. We
it's
used to get like
glamping.
one tarp, and we just had to tie it up and make our own tent.
Hmm.
So I was trying to tell this kid, I was like, this is luxury, but they don't seem to
They don't
agree.
believe you. Yeah. That's funny. So I was telling my kids were like, oh, can we go camping at camp? And I'm like, no, 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 we glamp. We don't camp. Like, we need
Yeah.
toilets and showers and things like that. um, so if you took to the Cheers day one, and you took it to how camp rolled, what was going through your mind the first time the lights cut out and a breakout started? What was happening in your British brain? You know?
Yeah, I can remember like the exact second. So it was like first encampment 2015, and it was MTV night. And so we
Uh-huh.
finished MTV night, and I think we'd sung Friends and Taps, and then the lights went out. And one of my kids who had been at camp for like 6 years, he like nudged me and he said, "Do you know what's happening?" And I just nodded and was like, "Yeah, of course I know what's happening." But in my head, I just thought like the admin had decided to do an MTV skit.
Yeah.
I didn't really realize what happened. And then like music starts playing, and I'm like, what is going on? And everyone's going crazy. And then it hits me, and some kids are like, it's Olympics. And I was like, oh wow! Like from the second you arrive at camp, everyone's talking about Olympics.
Right.
I had no idea what to expect. And then the next 4 days was just craziness.
Yeah. So what team was your first team?
My first ever team was Toy Story in the
Nice.
Pixar movie bowl. And then I got drafted, and my captain came up to me, and because we'd had a camp out together, he was like, "Oh, you're really good at fire, right?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I can make fires." He was like, "Can you do rope burn?" And I was like, "What is it?" And he explained what rope burn was, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." Big mistake, came fourth. To this day, that rope burn was probably the most stressful thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Oh
I ended up
yeah.
doing rope burn like 5 out of 6 Olympics where I was a counselor, and never won. I don't know why people kept making me do it. I came third or fourth every time.
Yeah.
Just having like 200 people just like yelling at you. But as a counselor, you can't touch anything. So
Yeah.
it was so stressful. But yeah, that was my first ever team. And then second encampment that same year, I was captain. And so when they called my name for captain, I just like was swamped by 20 kids. It just jumped at me, and I had no idea what was going on.
So what was your team? What were you captain of?
I was captain in the Marvel Superhero Bowl team. So my team was Avengers.
Nice.
And I'm like really not a huge like comic book fan or even movie fan. So we picked we picked Avengers because it was the only one my co-captain had seen. I hadn't seen any of them. The teams were like Guardians of the Galaxy, Fantastic Four. I can't remember the other one, and like Avengers.
I think it was X-Men, right?
Yeah, X-Men, that's the one. And my co-captain was like, "Which one do you want?" And I was like, "I've never seen any of them."
That's
and so she
funny.
decided. It was pretty cool because like we were walking down from the pavilion where it broke out to the office, and all the captains decided in that short walk which team we wanted to be. Like Jimbo was like, "Yeah, I want Guardians," and the other two were like, "Yeah, we'll take these ones." And I was like, "Cool, we'll take Avengers." Before we even drafted or anything, we already knew.
Just settled on it, right?
Yeah, and then that was
that's way less stressful than mine was.
But yeah, it was pretty much like Jimbo was he loves Guardians of the Galaxy, and he said,
Yeah.
"I absolutely need to be captain of Guardians of the Galaxy." And then we said, "Well, the Avengers is the only one we've seen," and then the other two captains were brothers, and they just argued between them the rest of the other two.
Yeah,
simple.
That's not bad. That's pretty good. I think it's funny the similarities from you and Spoon with the first years, being into the same kind of activities. Your first years, you were both captains, the second encampments of your first years, both to superhero teams. That's wild.
Did Spoon come fourth as well, or was that just me?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure he took fourth. Yeah, I'm almost positive he took fourth. Yeah, that's funny, dude. Yeah, he was captain of Superman, but but that's so crazy. That's so crazy. But that's awesome though. I think that experience was way more cordial than a lot of drafting for team names that I've heard. I remember, for me, I was captain of Luke Skywalker and for the Star Wars Bowl, and I went and Tommy O'Neill was captain of Darth Vader, and it was very much it was a fight from everybody who was gonna get either Darth Vader or Luke, because then it was Chewbacca or Yoda, and it was like, nah, like we got to be one of those main two, and then Tommy, of course, wiped the floor with everybody. He killed it in drafting, he killed it in everything, and it was very upsetting. But
I thought we killed it in drafting. Like I looked back at my old Olympic packet, and the counselors were awesome. I don't know what happened at their activities.
Yeah, it's just how it goes, man. Like
my only thing was I won my speech, and then I think I won my team's funny speech as well. So like the things I was in charge of, we did well at.
Then you won. That's it. Yeah. Well, you were on upper staff. You can tell us all about how it's rigged, right? So like, I'm kidding.
I've seen the book.
That's funny.
Yeah, I've definitely been at like a few drafts as well. Like the past 2 years, I was at the drafts as the counselors were trying to choose like what team, and they put so much effort into like what color they want to be and which like location they want.
Doesn't matter.
I'm like, can we move on? We've got like 2 hours of you picking counselors to come.
Yeah, that's the main thing is picking the counselors. I think a good draft kind of makes it or breaks it for you. I was very sure of myself with the fact that I was a musician, that I could do songs without having to worry about drafting for that, and that was a mistake. I wrote two of the three that we did, and it was cool, worked out really well, but like I couldn't teach them, so what's the point, And then Tommy drafted 2 or 3 like awesome song people who also did spirit and who also could do other things right off the bat, and I was like, well, that's that, Once,
yeah, well,
once we got to the end.
So the draft for me was crazy. I had no idea what was going on basically, and I still didn't know everyone at camp. I was like, there's so many people, how do you know? But my co-counselor Caitlin, like she's been at camp for years, and she was like, don't worry, we've got this. And she was like, I know, she's gonna start. Like she basically just did the whole thing. I was more there just for spirit and a smiley face. I remember we just ordered some pizza, and I was just eating pizza, and they were like, "So what do your team want to draft?" And I was just like, just handed it over to my co. She did it all.
There you go. That's cool. That's good. It's just like, good job. Whatever you say, I'm with you. You know, I agree.
Yeah, I was still like an 18-year-old like babyface Brit. I still had no idea what was going on really.
Right.
Yeah, we had a fun time. I
Yeah.
remember it being fun, even though we came fourth.
Hey, those are my favorite teams. The teams where you come in last place and you know you can't win, and it's just like, hey, let's have a good time and cheer. Like I think that's the most fun ever. It's when it's stressful when you think you might win. Like that's when you get old real fast and just having heart palpitations, you know.
Yeah, and for the record, I was 0-6 as a counselor. I never won Olympics.
I was just gonna ask you, do you know what your record was? Because I was like 1-12 or something. It was so bad.
I came second, fourth, then third, and then like my fourth Olympics, I was like, all right, for sure, this is when I'm going to come first. And I came third again, and then my final year as a counselor, I got fourth both times.
Yeah, that's brutal. I was the one time I won, I was a camper. I was actually just told this to somebody the other day, and it was the first time I'd ever won. On day 2, I got a head cold, and I was in the infirmary with like 103, 104 fever. I got let out at Song and Sign is when my fever broke 2 days later. So like I come out to Song and Sign, and like one of my buddies comes over and he goes, "Yo, it's your first win," and I was like, what happened? I don't even know what happened. Like I missed all of it.
Pizza.
Yeah, right. Hey, pizza. That's cool. But it was my one win. You know, other than that, you know, second a couple of times, mostly third and fourth. You know.
Yeah. But the way I justify it is because I did 2 years on admin as well and 1 as a counselor. Of the 10 Olympics I was at camp for, I actually went to the pizza party 5 times. So
Yeah. So
really, it's like a 500 record. But
yeah, that's a clean sweep. You know, straight 5 straight. You're on top. You know.
yeah, no. Like Olympics on admin was definitely an experience as well. Because once you remove like the competitive side and you're not on a team, that's when you really realize how crazy everything is.
Yeah.
And then Adam Krameroff will tell you the true story, but I was like refereeing kickball, and I was like, "What are the rules?" And they're like, "It's just baseball, but you kick it." And I was like, "I've never played baseball. Like I'm British. I don't know." I was like, "Unless you have me judging soccer, I'm gonna have to scratch up on the rules." And it was like council girls, and I was just making up the rules. That's right.
Right.
I was like, "I think that's maybe out. Maybe I don't know." Adam came to take pictures, and he had to like whisper rules in my ear for 20 minutes.
That's so funny. That's so funny. They should have asked them if we could change it to like cricket, like kickball cricket. You know.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. And then they had me like refereeing basketball, and like last year we added ultimate frisbee as well. And I've never had to referee so much sport in my life without barely knowing the rules.
Yeah, that seems like the wrong job for you. I think that your supervisor would have been good. You know, just what are games happening? Yes, okay, move on.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
So when we did frisbee last summer, like a few days before Olympics, we went to a different camp for a frisbee tournament. So Tommy and I went to that one. He was like, "Make sure you know all the rules because you're going to be judging it." Like,
Yeah.
I did scratch up on the rules, and it was pretty cool. Like frisbee was huge last summer for some reason. It's getting really popular. Like it's in terms of like electives and stuff, everyone was just signing up for frisbee.
That's cool.
Left, right, and center. It was awesome.
Yeah, we tried doing ultimate like as a ultimate frisbee as an elective when I was like a CIT or something, and it stuck for a minute and then it went away. And it was anytime like a new elective came out, it wasn't like a big deal like where you know but every once in a while one would stick and like you know and that's cool. I like that frisbee's coming back. That means pretty soon it'll be hacky sacks, and then you know it'll be music I listen to will also return, and maybe my fashion style will also come back in, which is just jeans and a t-shirt.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Last summer we had some awesome counselors as well, and like KJ is on his college frisbee team.
Yeah.
So he was teaching like actual technique. It wasn't just like throwing a frisbee around. We got like cam jams, and then I think this off season we went and bought one of those frisbee golf like posts that you throw it into. So yeah. Frisbee's it's coming back, making a return.
I love it. I love it. That's one of the things I really liked about camp too, is that I was introduced to so many things that I never saw before, especially as a camper. And then when I was a counselor, like we had a guy from New Zealand who taught me how to play cricket, and we literally played cricket on lower ball field. I love it. I still love it. I think it's awesome. And you know, obviously there's nowhere to watch it here, but when it's on, you know, I'll leave it on TV. And rugby, same thing. Somebody had got me into rugby when I was younger, and then when I was in high school, I played on a rugby team. But like, I wouldn't have done that without camp, because I mean, where's somebody from Philly learning about rugby or cricket? You know, I mean, the closest would be soccer, and yeah, I'm not built for that. You know, but
No, it definitely works in reverse as well, because at my school, like gym was either soccer or rugby. They were the
right.
choices at my school, and that was it. And then I got to camp, and there's like 20 different sports.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's wiffle ball? Like, what's baseball, softball? Like, I've never played any of these sports before. So the kids get a good laugh because I'm terrible at them. But I was like, look, you have to know, the first time I held a baseball bat, I was like 18.
Yeah, who cares? And that's the best part about camp. You can suck really bad, and everyone still loves you. You know, like it doesn't matter.
Me and everything. But no, I grew up thinking like I didn't like sports, but it turns out I just don't like soccer or rugby. Like, I'm a huge football fan now.
Yeah.
And I do watch like hockey and basketball and baseball and stuff now because of camp.
Yeah.
I just, for 18 years, assumed I didn't like sport because I wasn't a huge soccer fan. But now, like, I watch every Eagles game. I go to the games here in London when they're on, and like, absolutely love it.
Yeah. One of my best friends is a huge soccer fan. We don't connect on that, like, at all. And he's like, oh, you know, you got to watch the Union. That's the Philadelphia soccer team. You know, the Union, and he's got season tickets and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, I can't get into it, man. He's like, what? I was like, they're just running. You know, I was like, there's no contact, and then when somebody touches somebody, they fall on the ground and they cry. I said, this is not, you know, this is not for me. I can't do it. I've always been a football fan. I'm a huge Eagles fan, and I mean, I was on the wrestling team and rugby team. Like, soccer's is not for me, you know. But
I tell my friends I was born in the wrong country. Like, if I was born in the States, I would have played football for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I was thrown into the rugby team, but that's just because, you know, I was big.
That's
it's
so
just like, oh yeah, you're big, you can play on like their version of the offensive line. I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I was I was a lot smaller when I was in high school, so I was a hooker, and that's a whole experience all by itself. I
was thrown into hooker in like my first year of high school, and then as I got older and the other kids on the team got younger, they shifted me to prop, and I hated it. I much preferred like being a hooker. But
see, I was the opposite. I preferred prop.
But yeah, no, and I was like, oh, I don't really like rugby, and then I got injured. Like, I ended up like a big hit to the chest, and I was like, no, I'm good. Yeah. And then I discovered football, and then I was like, football is where. And I discovered football when like Carson Wentz got drafted. So for me, like the Eagles, I've always been a good team. I kind of skipped that like Chip Kelly era of the Eagles where they didn't really.
Dude, when I was a kid, when I was little, like my dad had season tickets to the Eagles. So I started going to the games in 92 when I was like 6. And so I went to every home game from 92 to 04, 05, somewhere in there. And those early years when Richie Kotite was the coach, it was enough to make you want to move. Like, it was really bad. And there were some glimmers of hope, like when you see some of the highlight reels, because we had Randall Cunningham and Reggie White and like these crazy Hall of Famers, but we didn't win any games. Like, so you had this one guy who was awesome, and then everything fell apart around them. You know, it was a rough existence. So you came in at a really good time.
Yeah, and the season the Eagles won the Super Bowl was super awesome for me as well, because it was my senior year of college, and just a street away from me was a friend that I'd met at camp, and he was a huge Patriots fan, and we ended up getting tickets to all the London games. So we'd wake up at like 5 o'clock on a Sunday, get a 4-hour coach to London, just go to the game, like have a few beers, and then like get a 4-hour coach back. Yeah. So we spent the whole season like watching football together. We watched like the AFC Championship and NFC Championship at his house, and then when we realized it was an Eagles Patriots Super Bowl, it was almost written for us, because we were like we were best friends. We met at camp. We were Eagles and Patriots fans, and then we had a Super Bowl party at my house. And like when that final whistle blew, I think he wanted to cry a little bit, but I was so happy.
Oh man, I love that though. I mean, and that's what's so great about camp is like you guys don't even have to have a loyalty to like your home team. You can pick, anybody you want. And the fact that you guys both chose those two teams. I mean, he chose poorly,
Yeah, I
but
think he chose before he went to camp.
yeah.
And then I only chose because everyone at camp is an Eagles fan.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, so
I
many people
chose.
from
I
the
feel like
city.
it was forced upon me, but in a good way.
Yeah. Hey, it's all right. We'll shove it down your throat until you like it. It's
Yeah, and that's what's cool as well, because like there's not many NFL fans in the UK, but having been to camp, all my like camp friends like the NFL, so we still have chats about it all the time and like group
yeah.
chats. And then like just 2 weeks ago, we went away for the weekend in the Lake District, and there was like
Yeah.
5 of us from camp, and some of them haven't been to camp for like 2015, some only went in like 2016, but we're all still friends, and we all still like go on holidays together. Like we went
That's
away
awesome.
in New Year to Budapest and Prague. There was a group of like 6 of us, and we'd all met at camp. And the only time
Wow.
we see each other is when we like go on holiday together, because we all live all over the UK. So we
Yeah.
basically just met in Budapest airport and had a week's holiday together.
That's amazing, dude. That's amazing. It's one of those things that I love is that everywhere you go, if you go somewhere where camp people are, like you always have a friend wherever you go, or someone will put you up. And it's so weird because it's not like that with other, like your college friends aren't like that. Your high school friends aren't like that. But camp people, like if they hear someone's in town, drop everything. Like, I don't care what's going on. He showed up. I gotta go. Like,
Yeah,
somebody
absolutely.
watch
And
this kid.
we all met traveling as well. So like trying to book like a holiday with some friends is a nightmare, because they're like, oh, I have to get time off work and I have to do this and this. And then we would just text each other saying, hey, who wants to go away for New Year? And within about 3 hours, we'd already booked the Airbnb, we'd booked the flights, and we were like, yeah, no question that. It was so cool.
Dude, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. I love it. I love it.
But yeah, and
What?
it's true. Like you've got camp friends all over the world. Like I just randomly bump into people all over the world from
Yeah.
camp. It's like crazy for me, because I was like New Orleans, and I posted something on my Instagram story, and then this girl messaged me, she's like, oh, you're in New Orleans, and then we ended up going for a coffee. And like I've met friends in like Christchurch in New Zealand or in London, like just
Yeah.
everywhere in the world.
That's
GSC
so
really
cool.
is quite a global community.
Yeah. It's and that's one of the things I stress when I'm telling people about camp, especially parents when I'm talking to them about their kids going to camp. I tell them all like your child is going to be so much more cultured because of how many people from all different walks of life are at this one place. It's kind of like taking a lot of the globe and smushing it into like 700 acres. And because I mean, growing up, I knew people from almost every country, like in most of like the Western Europe. And we had a lot of people from Israel that came, and from New Zealand, and from Australia and Canada. Like I never would have met any of those people, and like I have friends that were my age that were from other parts of the city that I never would have met because our schools were not near each other. I mean, Philly's an hour from one end to the other. So to the fact that you like I never would have met some of them, it's crazy to think that I wouldn't know them today. And they all had something to do with shaping who I became. That's actually a perfect segue, because I wanted to ask you, like, what about camp, like, or how did camp like sculpt who you are like now, because you only started a couple years ago. But I mean, I met you your first summer, and I know you now, and you're not the same dude. And so I mean, what did camp do to you, and do you think it was for the better?
100% it was sort of better.
Yeah.
Like what didn't camp do for me, basically? Like I say, the first summer I just wanted to travel. I had no intention of like a career working with kids or anything like that. And now just a few days ago, I sent off my application to become a teacher. So hopefully if I hear back starting next September, I might be a full-time teacher. So that's really a
Nice.
big thing. It's like, it changed my career. Like one summer at camp, I was like, dude, I want to work with kids.
Yeah.
Like at the time, so at university, I studied biomedical neuroscience.
Wow.
So all my like college friends have gone off to like one's training to be a brain surgeon, one's in research, and then I was like, no. I worked in a lab, like in a small team, and I just hated it, like 9 to 5 in a small team. And I said, I want to work, I want to be outside, I want to be abroad, and I want to be with kids. So since I graduated, I've literally just been like, traveling, working with kids. I did a year in New Zealand. Before this whole COVID thing, I was living out in the Middle East and teaching kayaking and paddleboarding and all sorts. So yeah, I've changed my whole like direction of my life. I thought I was going this way, and at one summer at camp, and I've just accelerated off in a completely different direction.
Now, do you think that was for the best, like for you personally? Because like, I mean, somebody would looking at that from the outside in would be like doctor or teacher, you know, like, but for some people, like that's just not the right way to go. You know, do you think that kind of saved you from yourself? Like to
Yeah, no, I was talking to my college friends and I was doing the application for a teacher, and they all just replied saying, "You've been an awesome teacher. Like you were born to be a teacher, basically." Because I did like the academic side, but just like working in a small team and working indoors, they all felt like, to be fair, all I ever talked about was camp anyway. So they knew that I was destined to like work with kids and stuff. And I'm still like, if I teach, I'll still be using my college degree. But no, it's definitely a good thing for me personally, because I think my senior year of college was like a really tough time for me because I was just indoors, just researching, and then like weirdly there was like a blizzard, and then all my lecturers went on strike. So for like a month, I was just in the library doing my own self-directed learning and reading, and I hated it. And that's when I applied for this job in New Zealand. I was like, I can't do this. I need to get out. And then I ended up working at a summer camp in New Zealand between summers at GSD as well, because it was the summer over there in the Southern Hemisphere.
Right.
And everyone's like, you can't work at summer camp full time. And I was like, watch me. I'm going to find a way to work at summer camp full time.
Yeah.
I was like, it's summer somewhere. And then after last, that's when I moved to the Middle East because it's always summer there. And ran summer camps out there too. So yeah, it's definitely changed my whole career, my whole life, and everything. But
how was that experience now? Because I mean, you were in Qatar, right? Right.
Yeah.
So how was that experience? Not necessarily as compared to here because it's very different, but like, but for you, I mean, that's a completely different culture where we might have had some differences. That's a very different, you know, like that. What kind of assimilation was that for you?
Yeah, it was a crazy cultural difference. And like before I went, my parents went, "Oh, are you nervous?" And I was like, "No, why would I be?" Like, well, because you're moving to a new country. And I was like, well, I've already moved to a new country like 3 different times before. Like, why is this going to be any different? And I even used the example like the guy I was living with in Qatar was from Georgia, not the state, the country.
Right.
And they're like, "You're just going to move in with a random Georgian guy in a country you've never been to." And I was like, "Yeah, but when I was 18, I moved in with an Israeli guy in a country I've never been to."
Right.
I was like, when I was in New Zealand, I was living with a German guy. Like, for me, it just makes no difference as long as you enjoy what you do. But yeah, culturally, it was wildly different. Like a campfire is a campfire, but when it's in the desert as opposed to the woods, and when it's like, so like in New Zealand, I was working for YMCA, which is a Christian organization. Obviously, GSC is Jewish, and then this was like a Muslim country, so it was a whole different learning experience for me. But it was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. That's you've kind of run the gambit, I think, between all of those you know, you've had the Jewish organization, the Christian organization, and then the Muslim country too. That's wild. You know, it's again, that's something that GSC kind of enabled you or like got you, you know, the fire going for you to do. You got to travel all over and do camp. I mean, like I think that's the dream, you know?
Yeah, who knew you could make them full time? But yeah, since the world's gone crazy, I decided that, well, travel is not really a thing anymore for the foreseeable future. So I thought, settle down, try and get a full-time job for once. Because basically everything I've ever earned in the past like 6 years has gone towards flights or visas or insurance or something. I've just been like non-stop. So it's been nice to settle down and like really think about it. Yeah, no, it was a crazy time, hopping from camp to camp. And it was cool, like I could take things from one camp to another camp, like songs and tradition, cheers and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and then you look like a genius too. Like you came up with all these crazy cheers, and you know, who would have? It's like, oh, this is the camp guy, you know. Meanwhile, one of us will travel to New Zealand and then find them doing the Vogelson train, and you know, what's going on, you know? What's Kate? You guys have a Cape Village here?
I know, like my camp in New Zealand, they were like, oh, we're thinking of like building a flagpole, but we don't know what we'd use it for. And I was like, I know exactly what you use flagpole for. Like, we gather around, we count everyone, we raise the flag, and then we go to breakfast. And they're like, oh, that's a great idea. I've just come up with it. I was like, no, that's what they do at camp.
Yeah, so Spoon, when you're watching this, remember we're gonna have to bill Jotty for the intellectual property of our flagpole being used elsewhere. Nah, I love it. I think it's great though. I mean, the fact that like the little bits of slipper kind of are infecting other parts of the world, than just this little corner of America is fantastic. I mean, I was so blessed to have been in bunks with guys that were, from Australia and New Zealand and from England and Germany and all these places. And some people spoke, English really well. Some people didn't, and it didn't matter. Like, if your heart was in it, we loved you, and that's what it was all about. And if you were fake, we knew you were fake, and you didn't last long, And I love that, this became a thing for you to be able to get out and see the world. I mean, that's something that most people just don't get to do. That's wild. Wild. So what summer do you think impacted you the most? Is it like the first summer shock, or was it, after you've had a little bit of time in?
I feel like 2016 was my second summer, but it was my first in waiters, and
Yeah.
that was the first summer where like a little bit more was expected of you. It's like, okay, you're not a first year anymore. You know what camp is about, and we need to know you a bit. And what was crazy about 2016 is we had a boys' side meeting, and TV said, oh, can anyone who's never been to camp raise their hand? Like, if you've never been as a camper or counselor, and like 2 hands went up. It was like one guy from Israel and like one American dude. He was like, cool, so you've all been to camp before, so we expect a lot from you this summer. And that was the summer, like my co-counselor was awesome, and I'm still best friends with him like to this day.
Yeah.
It was my first time in waders and all these things. I think that's why I learned the most about being a counselor and about camp. Because my co-counselor, Seth, he'd been there for like 10, 12 years, and it was his last summer. So I feel like he just gave me everything he knew about camp and basically passed the baton over for me to continue. That was a really cool summer for me, like in terms of learning about camp and about myself, really.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, TB is he's a tough boss, man. He's rough. I mean, we started the same summer, except that, I was like 11 or 12 years old and he was running boys side. But I mean, it was so to see him from then till now. I mean, he's up there for mentor people for me, like total hero. I mean, crazy how good he is with those kids.
TB took a year off in 2015, so the first time I met TB was my second summer, and I just got off the plane and I was like jet lagged, and I had to get a coach out to Delaware Water Gap, and TB picked me up, and he was like, oh, you're Jotty, and I was like, yeah, and he's like, cool, you're waiters counselor this year. Like, that's where I found out, and I was like, that's the first thing he ever said to me, was like, you're waiters counselor. So I was like, wow, I feel like I have to like definitely perform now. It's like, no pressure.
Yeah, right. That's a rise to the occasion moment. That's it. You got to do it. Yeah, waiters is an interesting summer as a camper. I was never a waiters counselor, so I wouldn't even guess, what that's like as a waiters counselor, because I mean, it's a whole different set of rules, of everything. And but as a camper, I mean, that was my favorite summer as a camper. It's I loved the work. Like that I mean, as dumb as that is, yeah, that camaraderie with everybody, and that, the waiters and waitresses were so tight, but like I loved actually the serving part. Like that was so much fun for me. And running around, dancing around the dining hall, like it was nuts, just it was wild. I loved it. Did you like
definitely I absolutely loved it. It's so unique, and it's really hard to explain to other people. So the other camps I worked at, it's like buffet style. So you go up and just like get food and sit down.
Yeah.
I explained to them like how we have waiters and waitresses, and they're like, oh, that must be really tough on the staff. And I was like, no, it's the kids, like the oldest campers, and they're like, how do you get them to do that? And I was like, they love it. Like it's a tradition at camp. It's like hard to explain, but they all like everyone wants to be a waiter or waitress. And they're like, that sounds awful. You have to like wake up early and set the tables, and you miss activities. And I was like, yeah, but it's like almost a rite of passage at camp. And like being a waiters counselor was just probably the best for me. I absolutely loved it. It was like a little bit more responsibility, and you definitely get a lot closer to your campers because you're spending all that time at the dining hall. Like a
Yeah.
Shabbat schedule for a waiter would just be like wake up, dining hall, one activity, dining hall, swim, dining hall.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time in there, but you definitely get a lot closer. And I think it's good for the kids as well, just to learn some like responsibility. It's like the first time they probably ever had a job. So yeah, then they all go into the service industry when they turn 16.
Yeah. Well, it's funny as a kid, that was one of the things that, that I really felt like now as an adult looking back that I took from that experience was that I learned a work ethic mostly from there because like I had a job in high school. I started, or even younger, I started as like a lighting assistant for a photographer. I worked 1 day a week. Like that's not a real, I mean, I made money, but like it's not a real job. Like a real job is where you're grinding. And like Chad Deach, I don't know if you've ever met Chad, but Chad and Sean Banks were my waiters counselors. So everyone watching, from old school, you'll know who they are. And Chad, kind of sat us all down right in the beginning and said, "Hey, we have expectations for you. You like, this is your trial, and if you do well, you get asked back as a CIT. And like this is your audition. You have 3.5 weeks to prove that you want to be back next summer." And and I loved that. Like he set it off right in the beginning. This is what it is, and go to town. And some people did really well, some didn't, and always whoever the waiter was for upper staff got a nice tip, and the rest of us got nothing. But it's cool. And but it was that trial for CIT. When you had it in your mind if you wanted to come back or not as a staff member. And if you did, you worked and you did it. And I think that's something that you don't see at other camps. I mean, I worked at a day camp too, and the CITs were pretty bad. And it was mostly because they had no way of weeding out someone that didn't have a work ethic. And I love that about GSC. Did you see that the same kind of way at other camps too?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like the way a lot of people judge which kids are going to be best for CITs is like how they perform at activities. But sometimes you can get those kids who just like they're not that sporty, so they kind of sit at the bench. But then as soon as you get them in the dining hall, it's like go 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 go, and that work ethic is there. And then you can say to your village leader or the directors, they're like, okay, this kid might be, he might sit on the bench playing wiffle ball, but when he's in the dining hall, it's 100% effort, and that's
Right.
what does make them a CIT. So yeah, it's definitely a step in the right direction for the campers. I think other campers look up to the waiters and waitresses as well, because they're always around them all the time.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good role model system for the younger kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely loved it. Like being a waiters counselor was just the best. It was so good. You get a lot. I feel like you just get a lot closer with the campers just because you spend so much time together. You go to bed later. You wake up earlier. You're definitely tired as a waiters counselor all the time.
Yeah.
So you really have to get on with your co-counselor. There's a lot of trust there, but no, it was an awesome experience. I loved it.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Now, being when you were waiters counselor, you were obviously on the girls' side and vice versa. For the waitresses on the guy side. Did you ever have anybody try and pass in like notes for you to drop off to messages to give to the other side? Anything like that? Because I've heard stories. Not about you specifically, but
every single meal,
yeah.
especially leading up to the dinner dance. It's like someone writes in peanut butter on a piece of bread, like, will you go with me? And then they pass it to a waiter. But now we sort of made the blanket rule, like, please don't do that because you're wasting food and you're wasting plates and stuff. So if we did catch one, we just either read it out loud to the whole of camp to embarrass them, or we just throw it. So you're trying to keep a watch out. And it's quite obvious when you have female waiters coming over to the girls' side, a whole plate of something. So yeah, we just embarrass whoever made it. And no, ask them out in person. Be a man.
Yeah.
Ask them out normally. Stop wasting peanut butter, basically. So yeah, I had to intercept a lot of those messages. And then you try and get people waving from the other side of the dining hall, trying to get their attention. And I like the waiters and waitresses have enough on their hands serving food. You're making them run up and down, passing notes as well. Don't complain when you're not eating. That's what I said.
Right.
I was like, you haven't had any water pages because you sent your waiter off to deliver messages.
That's awesome though. That's so funny. I love that aspect of the camp too though. I mean where it's separated and you're anything you can do to talk to somebody over there, they try and pull it. I had when I was a camper my first summer, I had a counselor in my bunk. I'm not going to name names because you know one of the people from another way, and I'll tell you later. But when I had the lake elective, so like, but I was like a barracuda, so I couldn't go out on a boat by myself. So this one counselor would always ride in the boat because she liked my counselor, and she was always trying to get info off me about him and whatever. And like, so it was like, okay, cool. I have a boat buddy, so I can go out on the rowboat and yeah, grill me. Like I'll tell you anything. Like it's fine. I need a boat buddy. Like this is but so yeah, I figured as waiters counselor it's probably way worse, you know. But that's
Yeah,
funny.
as waiters counselor, nothing gets past you, especially in the morning. Like I would give out coffee and my co would give out tea. So like
Yeah.
about a week into camp, I've already figured out who all the female counselors are that drink coffee, exactly where they sit. So I just know like who needs what, and I just go around and like get all the gossip from all the counselors.
Yep.
That was the favorite bit for me, is just like going around every morning and just like basically like when you go up to someone who's just woken up at camp with a fresh cup of coffee, they automatically just love you. You don't need to do anything.
Oh yeah, you're instantly the most famous person. That's it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So when I got a new co-counselor the next year, the first thing I said to her was like, "You're doing tea, I'm doing coffee."
Yeah,
That's
I
my
already
job.
know everybody is. I know
Yeah.
who needs this.
I know
That's
that was one breakfast when Megan O'Donnell was a counselor, and she just had to take a kid to the bathroom, and I skipped her for coffee, and she still to this day has not forgiven me for it. She's like, "Do you remember that one time you forgot to give me coffee?"
hey, I would hold that against you forever. That
I did try to say, well, if you're not sat at your table, I don't know. Like you could have been at the infirmary, you could have been anywhere, but no, she still has me. So I have to apologize every time I see her.
well, I'm going to talk to her later, so I'll let you know. I'll let her know that you're still very sorry for your injustice. That, when I was on staff, I didn't even wait. Like I was that horrible guy that didn't even wait for them to come around. I went in and was like, oh, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, but I go right in, just grab my coffee, and then come back out and like go sit down. I was a bad influence, but it was.
Yeah, no,
You guys would
on
have hated me.
admin as well. I'd swing by the dining hall on the way to Flagpole, so I had my
Yep.
coffee in my hand at Flagpole. Absolutely. I mean, that's not the best tasting coffee in the world, but when you're at camp and you need coffee,
You need it.
anything goes.
Oh yeah, you need it. Yeah, if like worst case scenario, you just chew the grounds. If you need, you got to get through somehow.
Absolutely. Well, that's one thing camp taught me as well. Like I didn't drink coffee before I came to camp. That's when I started drinking coffee. And now look at me, like I can't not drink coffee.
So we made you give up being a doctor, and we've also instituted a caffeine dependency that you didn't have before. So we'll keep adding more drugs to your your repertoire, and at some point, no, it's so great. I mean,
Absolutely.
it does hit you different ways, like where you get into different things. The culture's so different. I mean, like I never really drank tea unless I was sick until I was in a double bunk with someone from England. And like now I don't mind tea that much because it was like, oh no, I mean, yeah, if Andy's drinking it, I'll drink it. Like that's fine. But that it is funny how you pick up little things from your codes, But what do you think? How did well, we kind of talked about how camp sculpted you and like what you're doing today. You're trying to you're getting into teaching now. That's awesome. Um, what So do you think you're gonna come back next year? If you're gonna be a teacher, you'd be off in the summer, right? Like,
Yeah, but the school year is a bit different over here. So we finish like in the middle of July. So if I do get the teaching place, like we only get like 6 weeks off the summer, and it's like the middle of July to the end of August. So the timings wouldn't particularly work out. I know for sure at some point in the near future I'm going to come visit camp. I know like every international says that, but
yeah,
because the way I left, I didn't really get to say goodbye to everyone. It was like, oh, I'll
right,
see you next year, and then we ended up not seeing each other.
right,
So for sure, in one of the coming summers, I definitely want to come over to Philly and say a
yeah,
proper goodbye to everyone.
yeah. I think that'd be
But
cool.
yeah, as far as coming back for a whole summer, I'm not planning on it, but
Yeah.
I didn't plan on like summers number 4 or 5, but they happened. So.
Right. Yeah. Hey, that's cool. That's cool. I think it would be cool. I would love to have you for another summer. I think it would be awesome to get you back one more time. But I mean, even still, like at least you've got a place to go, and I think that the proper goodbye is definitely needed for sure. So no skipping out on that, you know. But I love that we're having a little bit more of this alumni kind of thing where like last year we had alumni day for the first time, and like that was pretty wild to see all these people come up that weren't there before. I would love for more international people to come in for a visit, you know, and I know that the kids would love it. I know the staff would love it, you know, to see everybody. So your backpacking friends and holiday friends that all get together, I'm expecting y'all on a plane, you know, to come and visit, you know, for sure, man. That'd be awesome. I would, you know, we would love to see you.
No, that's the great thing about camp is like I could go to Philly and stay for a month without having to buy a single hotel room. Like I've so many friends. Like I think it was 1 year I stayed at Tommy's house, well, then I stayed at my own parents' house because I was like at college, and then I went straight to camp. I was sleeping on Tommy's couch, and then I had to stay there for like 2 weeks before I went to New Zealand. But it's like I didn't have to worry about hotels, hostels, or anything. Every camp friend in the world goes sleep on the couch. Awesome.
Dude, my house open door policy. Like that's, you always have a place to stay. You ever need a place, come on over.
Yeah. But now I'm getting to that stage where I'm getting wedding invites and like people are getting dogs in their own houses. And I'm like, oh no. I had to miss a camp wedding because I was in New Zealand. And they're like, oh, but it's in January. And I was like, yeah, but that's the middle of summer in New Zealand. I can't take time off work to fly to the other side of the world. But yeah, no, I expect a few more wedding invites to come over the next few years as well.
Yeah.
See how many of those I can make or not make.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But you should tell them to do destination wedding and do it over there. You know?
Yeah.
Do it in England. Why not? Yeah. That'll be your closest, you know, 5 people. Bring them over, and you show them where to go. I think that's even better. You save a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Weddings are stupid expensive. But yeah. So what what's it called? With everything that we're doing, we're trying to get, you know, more alumni engaged and involved, and, you know, helping out either with donating their time or joining the club, and, you know, things like that. What do you think we can do for the international staff and that weren't campers but are still part of the community? Like, do you think that there's a way we can kind of get them active on, you know, doing stuff either like this or social media, or, you know, they can do like their own version of this, but, you know, just the foreign staff or something like that, you know, where they're doing like topics or talking or something. Like, is there a way, do you think we can get them involved? Because I know that people would love to see them, and I would for sure.
Yeah, the weird thing about international stuff is like we all meet up and stuff, but in our own little groups. But like the friends I went with were like the 2015-16 Brits, and then I saw some other girls on social media who were from last year that they all met up. So I think it would be fun to try and connect all the years. Because like obviously I know everyone from 2015 to 2020 basically. But before 2015, I only know like one Brit, and that's because he returned. So I think it'll be cool if we like somehow manage to link or find people that date back all the way through the years, so we can link everyone up. Because I'm constantly hearing stories about, oh, this Brit was just like you, because he was 2 years before. I've never met him. I don't know him. Like, I don't know what he's doing.
That's that's wild, dude. Like we were talking about doing like a like how we have alumni day. It'd be so crazy if you guys did like your own like international staff meetup or something in England, like, because we had so many English staff that used to come over through that program, and I mean, that would be nuts for you to get to see, you know, how far back. I mean, I remember, you know, I as a camper, like some of my favorite staff members were from overseas, and it was like just the fact that, you know, you got to learn so much about another part of the world, you know. And I think that you guys having that same commonality would be crazy, you know, to slip it through the years, because camp is very different now than it used to be, you know. But I think it'd be cool for you guys to chat. I mean, what would you like, you know, what do you think about what would you tell current campers now that are for the first time ever, as are you, feeling that sting of not being at camp? Like, what is, you know, what would you tell them? I know a lot of people having, you know, problems, you know, like that they're feeling trapped, or they're stuck, and, you know, people are getting depressed and anxious and all kinds of stuff without it. I mean, like when I was a kid, I had to go to camp. I didn't go to camp, I would have lost my mind, you know. So like, you know, now, you know, it's been 15 years since I've been like a counselor. Like, you know, I'm used to it now. First couple of years sucked, you know, but So what are you feeling now? What would you tell your kids now? You know, your campers and stuff. Any advice?
I think it's important to know camp, like it's a physical place, but it's also so much more than just a physical place. Like camp isn't just about the buildings and the facilities. Like if you have camp friends, like talk to them, message them, like go meet up with them. So
Yeah.
I went away with some camp friends like 2 weeks ago, and it was almost like therapy. It's like, oh, I can't be at camp, but I'm still with my friends. Like we can still talk about and reminisce camp, and even conversations like this. It's great
Yeah.
to catch up with people. So just because we can't like physically go to camp this summer, it doesn't mean camp's not happening. Like you can still meet up with friends and definitely just keep in touch with everyone. That's what I
Yeah.
say.
Dude, that's a perfect, like, everybody I'm talking to that has you know, has had very similar responses is that, you know, camp is so much more than the place itself. And you know, my daughter loves going to camp. I mean, she's not old enough to go yet, but like she loves going up to visit, hanging out with all you guys. And you know, she was asking me about, well, like, can we just go up? Like, can we just, even though it's not open, can we just go up? And I'm like, but it's not camp. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's just an empty, it's just an empty piece of land. Then, you know, camp is when everyone's there and the place is like on fire. That's camp, you know, that, and there'd be no dining hall, no cheering, no, you know, nothing. Like it's not the same place, you know. And so I feel you there. I think that that's really important that everybody knows they always have a place, you know, somewhere to someone to talk to, because your camp people are never going to turn your way. If you're having problems, reach out to somebody. You know, everybody's here for you, because it's such a crazy time right now. Has this been, like, everything going on with like COVID and everything, has that been really like has that affected you guys substantially, or are you guys still in lockdown? Like, how is that kind of working over there?
Yeah, we had a pretty long lockdown period from like mid-February to about the start of June. But pretty much now everything's getting back to normal. Well, the new normal. So we still have to wear face masks and no large groups and stuff, but everyone's getting back to work, and it does feel like things are getting back to normal now, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I was really lucky. I managed to get a job before lockdown. So even though I wasn't going to work, I was still getting paid and stuff. So it didn't really affect me
Nice.
too much.
That's cool.
But yeah, and for me, like this is the longest I've spent in England since I was 18.
Wow.
It's like, but no, it's cool. My parents moved to London and I moved in with them. So I've been exploring London a lot the past few weeks, which is awesome. But yeah, as far as COVID in the UK, it was, yeah, we hit pretty hard pretty early.
Yeah,
But right now, everything's pretty much going back to normal now.
that's good. That's good.
Hopefully it stays that way. And I would say, just like going back to the other point as well, like just because you're not at camp, also you can't use distance as an excuse. Like I hate when my Philly friends are like, oh, I miss my camp friends. I was like, dude, you can drive an hour to see your camp friends. I have to fly over an ocean to see my
Right.
camp friends. I was
Yeah.
like, distance is no excuse. Like if you really want to keep in touch with your camp friends, do it. Like get online.
Yeah.
Even if there's a camp friend that happens to live nearby, like, even if you didn't talk to them at camp, you're both still missing camp.
Oh, yeah.
That's my pet peeve, is when people in Philly like, oh, I miss my camp friends. I wish we could be at camp. I'm like, you can drive to see them. I
Right.
can't.
Yeah. That's so funny. No, I was
Guys.
you guys are so lucky. I mean, like, that's the one thing I will say about the campers now, and I think I've said this in every interview so far, so it's kind of a broken record. But like, they're so lucky that this happened now, when you have the ability to do this. I mean, you're in England right now, and I'm right outside of Philadelphia, and we are just having an hour-long conversation face to face, and that's crazy. You know, like, even when I was a kid, Tommy was my, you know, Tommy O'Neill was my best friend growing up, and we wouldn't see each other all year, and we lived 15 minutes away, but we didn't have, you know, phones and stuff, like, and all. I think we hung out like a couple of times in between, you know, until we were on staff. Then it was different. But like, but to think that now you can video call your friends, you can talk to them like on messengers and things like that, and it's, the world's so much smaller. You know, I mean, you can talk to your campers like face to face from another country. It's wild. And Spoon just did a whole 5 week program online and kept that spirit going. And like, there, you know, we didn't get to go to camp, but at least you got to still feel something, you know. And I think that was pretty cool. Did you do any of that? Were you doing any of the virtual stuff?
Yeah, well, the time zones are a bit weird, so I was doing all the like lunchtime stuff. But when it was like evening activities, I was asleep. So I felt bad because I was supposed to be running evening activities this summer. Yeah, it's crazy. Like everyone's picked up the slack a little bit. Like we can't expect everyone to be on every Zoom call all the time.
Right.
If
Yeah.
you're around and you can make it, like absolutely. I went to like a games one,
Yep.
played categories and code names with the kids. I went to the Council Boys meetup, which was fun. There was like 30 people in that one, all just literally just doing this for an hour, just reminiscing about camp. I think we had to cut it short. I was like, oh, we've been on this for like 2.5 hours now. We should probably like, yeah, go back. But no, yeah, I've been like, I haven't been away from camp friends for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I've been locked down in my small apartment in London, but I've still been talking to everyone all the time. And like I say, the world's tiny. Like I had a Skype friends call with some friends in New Zealand, but there was also people from Canada and Germany all on the same call. So there's only about 1 hour in the day where we're all awake, but we're all still together and like reminiscing. So,
But that's
yeah.
your hour. That's your hour. You know, everybody be awake for this time. That's what's going to happen. That's awesome, though.
Yeah, the Kiwis just woke up. The German was like nearly ready for bed.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone, like you can talk to anyone from anywhere in the world. There's no excuse.
That's so true. That's so true. That's awesome, man. Well, you know, I think we're at a pretty good point here. I don't want to give it all away. We want to have a Jotty round 2 at some point, you know. So let's. Is there any bit of advice that you want to give to the kiddos on the way out the door here? Anything? Any last tidbits?
Just do it. Like it's really hard to explain, but there's a million questions running through your mind, but you don't find out until the day you're there how awesome it is. Like we can explain to you for hours how amazing it is, but it's just that feeling of being there. Like if you, just be at camp, be with people, do it. It's definitely the best experience you'll ever do. And if
That's
you're lucky
awesome.
like me, it will change your life.
That's so cool. I love it. Hey, Jotty, you're the man. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little bit. And until next
Thanks for calling.
time, you know, take care.
Take care and go Birds.
Go Birds. I love it.
All right. Talk to you soon.